Okay, good morning. How you doing? I'm with Pastor Laurence Edgar here, who pastors the House of the Lord in Billybean, Belfast. I pastor with him, and it's just a great outreach. It's a great work he does. But Pastor Laurence read a wonderful story a few years back of his life, and it was called "The Two Demons from Hell." And I think everybody needs to hear this. So I'm just going to introduce him now, and Pastor Laurence is going to tell you the story of the two demons from hell. Pastor Laurence.
Well, good morning, everyone. Yeah, Two Demons from Hell has been a great track and a great outreach. And since I wrote it, I have had great feedback of various people who are caught in the trap of drink and drugs and alcohol and various demons. That track has really helped them and delivered them. But how it came about, Pastor Sam, was I was first introduced myself to alcohol from the young age of 13, 14 years of age. And it progressed into my life. And I had a business, an engineering business, which was quite good to me. It flourished well. But the alcohol destroyed that business off me. I married a young girl I was 17. We eventually had 3 boys and a daughter.
Yes.
And the alcohol sucked the life out of me as my children were growing up and when they were young.
Yes.
Now, the two demons from hell is beer and vodka. First of all, beer came along, and it seemed to make me happy and get a kick. And then, months later, I was introduced to vodka.
Right. That's its friend.
That's his friend. The two demons, beer and vodka.
Right.
And vodka seemed to have although he was a wee guy,
right,
he had such a great kick.
Bigger kick.
He had a bigger kick than beer.
Yes.
And I just fell in love with them too, Pastor Sam.
Yeah.
Until eventually I was drinking 24 hours per day.
Wow.
During the middle of the night, I had to take a glass of beer and a glass of vodka to bed with me.
Right.
To get me through the night.
Yes.
And that was mainly to take away DTs, shakes, nervous situations. But it did suck the life out of me in relation to my marriage. When I think back of my children suffering when they went to school. And it eventually robbed me of my business.
Yeah.
And when I became 42 years of age, I remembered as well, I bought my steel of a good Christian man called Alec Woods.
Right.
Who owned a steel stockist in Rob's Road in Dundonald.
Yes, I remember it well.
And I owed Alec £7,000 for steel.
Wow.
I was to go into rehab treatment at cirrhosis of the liver, but I never made it.
Right.
I always went to some club, some pub. Here in the streets of Belfast, Pastor Sam, you'll always get somewhere open even.
Exactly. No matter what time.
No matter what time. During the middle of the night, 24 hours, there'll be a shipping somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm standing in this man's yard and he looks at me, I'm drunk, and he says to me, Laurence, he says, you've got to catch yourself on.
Right.
Which has been said to me so many times by so many people.
Yes.
And being the sensible man I am, I knew that.
Aye.
I knew that I was destroying my life. I knew that, but I couldn't kick the two demons from hell. I took them everywhere with me.
I know.
You know, I was really caught in beer and vodka.
Yes.
So much so that it was destroying my marriage with Jean and my business. So Alec, I said to Alec, I know I am, and I know I owe you that money. I said, as a matter of fact, I'm supposed to go into rehab tomorrow, which is the next day, and down Patrick Hospital for treatment. I said, but Alec, I never make it. And he says to me, what time have you to go in at? He says, I said, any time, Alec, you know, but I'll always either go to the Baker's Club or some shebang.
Right.
But after that conversation, Pastor Sam, with Alec, I went down to the pub.
Right.
The pub in Dundallan Village, it was called Campbell's, Billy Campbell's. It's closed now.
Right.
But then I drank all day long, and I went home that night with a bottle of vodka.
Right.
And I drank it during the middle of the night. And I got up early in the next morning to go to a shebang.
Yes.
Shebang is an illegal club. A
Yes.
club that hasn't got a license to sell.
Right.
And there was quite a lot of them. And this was during the Troubles, Pastor Sam. So, so the police never bothered with the shebangs. So I got up the next morning and I went to go to this shebang when I seen Alec coming to my door. Now the first thing I thought of was the £7,000 that he owed. Yes, yes,
It's here for his money, yeah.
And I went, oh no, here comes Alec. He's going to put me under pressure. For by Alec, I actually owed 15 grand to other people. You know, so it amounted to actually, I was £22,000 in debt in 1988. Now that was a big lot of money in 1988. £22,000 today is an awful lot of money to an awful lot of people.
Probably 100,000 plus.
Well, that's what I owed back in 1988. So I opens the door to Alec thinking this is what he's after, is £7,000. And he says to me, come on, you're going into hospital today. Right. It suddenly dawned on me that I'd been speaking to him the day before.
Exactly.
And I went, oh no, Alec, no, I'm not.
Not today.
I says, no, Alec, I couldn't go into hospital. I'll have to go to the club. I'll have to go and get a drink. I'm too shaky, I'm too nervous. Well, just as that, I heard my wife Jean shuffling, getting up the stairs.
Yes. And
I knew that there was going to be a row.
Of course. Yeah.
Between me and her, and I didn't want that.
No.
So what I done, Pastor Sam, I jumped in Alec's car with no clothes, no suitcase, nothing prepared at all.
Right.
And he comes into the car and I says, tell him, take me down to such and such a club.
Right.
He didn't.
No.
He took me to Patrick Hospital.
Brilliant. Hey, Pastor Laurence, just to remind people here, you said you had cirrhosis of the liver.
I did have.
So you must have been pretty ill as well.
I was, Pastor Sam. I had quite a swelling liver.
Yes.
And I had it for possibly a year.
Right.
And I was actually in hospital when they took x-rays off me.
Right.
And they told me that all of my internal organs was all rotted with the alcohol. Wow. As a matter of fact, they told me if I had any insurance, life insurance, I'd possibly just be as well cancelling it because I wouldn't live until I was an old man. Right.
Now you were 42 at this time?
I was 42 years of age at that time. Right. I was a washout, I had no energy, I couldn't breathe. There was a lot of them playing football. Right. With the inmates that I was with in rehab. I couldn't play football. I didn't have the energy. No. So then they started sending me to what was called yoga classes. Right. I'm not into yoga, but it was mainly exercise classes, you know.
We have to get them to do something.
That's right. They got me to move various parts of my body.
Right.
To get me energy and back again. And then they put me on special diets, special food diets. Right. For to build up my energy and so forth like that. The hospital done a great job, there's no doubt about it. But I was never a godly man, Pastor Sam. Right. You know, I didn't know anything about the Bible at all. My last time that I remembered in church was I was doing best man for a friend called Charlie Snodden.
Right, a wedding.
At his wedding. Yeah. But I was standing in the church drunk. Right. Trying to tell people where to sit. Sit.
And probably thinking about your next drink more than the people.
I was thinking about the reception afterwards.
Yeah.
And all the alcohol and the booze that we
What
would get afterwards. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway, there was a picture on the wall, and it said, "If God seems so far away, guess who's moved?"
Right.
Well, I didn't understand what that meant, Pastor.
What is that
Sam.
about? Yeah.
You know, and I remember going up to the picture and looking up at the picture on the wall, and I said, "If God seems so far away, guess who's moved?"
Yeah.
And I asked the question, I don't understand that. Who's moved? Have you moved, God, or have I moved? I just don't understand it. But as God's plan has it, I got a visitation from a pastor.
Right. Brilliant.
His name was David Duncan, and he was a pastor of the Assemblies of God Church in Dundonald.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Great man of God.
He was.
So when he was up, I asked him that question, and I took him to the picture and I said, "Pastor, do you see the text in that picture? It says, 'If God seems so far away, guess who's moved?' What does it mean?" It means, Laurence, that you are far away from God.
Yeah.
For his word says
Yes.
that he will never leave you and he'll never forsake you.
True. That's true.
So he hasn't moved.
Right.
And if he hasn't moved,
It must be you. Yeah, exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
and I said, "Oh, yes, I understand it now. I understand it now." But then, Pastor Sam, there was another text that I understood, but I started arguing with God over it.
Right.
And the text in this picture said, "Please, God, teach me to smile again,
Right.
but don't ever let me forget that I once cried."
Wow. Powerful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, me and Jean was always at loggerheads, always arguing, always fighting. Never her fault.
I know.
It was always mine. It was always mine.
Yeah.
But at this particular time, Jean came up to visit me. She always visited me every day. But an argument would have started between us,
Right.
and I would have lost it and said,
Right.
"Go your way home."
Yeah.
Go your... And Pastor Sam, she went, left me with tears in her eyes.
Right.
And she was only away, and I wanted her back.
I know.
You know?
Yeah. Of course.
So I remember going up that picture and I said, "God, please teach me to smile again. But don't ever let me forget that I once cried."
Yes.
And I said, "Well, what have I got to smile about, Lord?"
Right.
You know, how could you put a smile on my face? I said, "I've just been told that I've got cirrhosis of liver and I won't live until I'm an old man."
Yes.
And I actually said to God, I said, "Do you know what you would be better doing? You would be better stopping my heart and letting me die
Just
now. Because I'm only a menace."
I know. But you were angry.
I was.
You were bitter. You were caught up in between life and what's it all about? I know. I can understand.
I understand that now, Pastor Sam, I do. Then I didn't.
I know.
Then I didn't. I was angry.
Yes.
And at that particular time, I was serious with the Lord that I probably did want to die.
Aye.
More so than go home and go back into the pubs and the clubs.
Yeah.
And give Jean a hard time and be the alcoholic and a drunkard. You know, a Jekyll and a Hyde.
I know.
You
I've seen
know,
it. Yeah.
with the drinking.
Yeah.
Once the demons comes into you, it completely changes you, you know.
You see what you're saying there? That's why this is so relevant and if people's listening. Because people understand it's not you as a person, it's what drink and alcohol can do to you as a person that makes a difference.
That's right.
Isn't that right? Yeah.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
All right.
So anyway, as the weeks went on, Pastor Sam, at rehab, I was there for 7 weeks. On the 6th week, they allowed me home.
Right.
But the rule was that I had to attend an AA meeting as Alcoholics Anonymous meeting.
Of course. Yep.
So there was one in East Belfast, not too far from me, Templemore Avenue.
Yes.
And I got home on a Friday. I was to be back in the hospital for Sunday night at 11 o'clock.
Right.
So that's Friday night, all day Saturday, Saturday night, all day Sunday, and then back in again to hospital for 11 o'clock Sunday night. On the Friday night, I went to that alcoholics meeting on Templemore Avenue.
Yes.
And they did report back to the hospital that I had been there.
Good. Yes.
So on the Saturday, I went out and I done a bit of shopping with Jean. On the Saturday night, we went to the Pictures.
Right.
The Strand Pictures.
Very good. Yes.
Went to the Pictures.
Brilliant.
Sunday was just a lazy day. I just lazed around the house. But it came about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I happened to say to Jean, I think I'll get down to that wee church in the Cumber Road.
Because you remembered Pastor David Duncan visited you.
Exactly.
Yes, right.
I think Jean was more shocked and surprised, you know, what?
Yes.
And it was me who said to her, but Jean, I'll be pastor, come up to the hospital to see me.
Aye, so I said, give him a visit.
As a matter of fact, while he was in hospital, Pastor Sam prayed for me, you know.
Right. Yes.
So I did go at 7 o'clock. Now, this is my first time in church.
Yes.
And as I say, I knew nothing about the Bible.
And you're sober now.
And I'm sober.
Not like the wine.
And I'm sober. But I'm not good. I've still got cirrhosis of liver.
Of course.
I've still no energy.
Right.
My nose was bulbous.
Right.
I had purple veins down my face with the alcohol, the purple thread veins.
Right.
Just drained of energy.
Yes.
And weak. So I'm in church, and lo and behold, on that particular night, Pastor Duncan was having a healing meeting.
Right.
Now, what he had said was, if there's anybody, and I didn't know what this word meant back then, he said, if there's anybody in church that's got any infirmities in their body,
Yes.
put their hand on it,
Right.
and I will pray and ask the Lord to heal them. Well, infirmities means your disease, wherever.
Illness, sickness.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what I did was I put my hand on my liver.
Right.
Now, I do forget what Pastor Duncan prayed. Naturally, I prays for healing.
Of course.
But I never forget what I prayed, Pastor Sam.
Right.
I prayed, Lord, you will either heal me, I said, or else I would prefer it, Lord,
Yes.
that you stop my heart.
Wow.
I would prefer that you die.
Yes.
Because, Lord, I certainly do not want to go back out into the welders' clubs, the con club, all the pubs and clubs and the dens and the shebeens that I knew. I don't want to start living that life again.
Of course.
Now, I was told in hospital that in my situation, out of literally thousands, there would be only one that they ever seen healed and making it.
Unbelievable.
I remember praying a prayer.
Yes.
Lord, will you let me be that one?
Wow.
Will you let me be that one? I remember it as well. So anyway, church is over, and I have to get back into hospital, back into Downpatrick. And I'm back in again for 11 o'clock. So on that night I slept like a baby.
Like a baby. The night after church.
The night after church.
Brilliant. Yes.
The next morning, Pastor Sam, I woke up and I felt a surge of strength in my body. I felt stronger. So I went over to the mirror to get myself washed and cleansed up, and I looked in the mirror and I noticed that my face had changed.
Wow. Amen.
My bulbous nose had all shaped into normal, and all the purple thread veins with the alcohol caused by the alcohol had gone.
Wow.
My skin was perfect.
Brilliant. Wow.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
Immediately I put my hand down in my liver.
Praise the Lord. Isn't it fantastic? What a testimony. What a story.
He had healed me, Pastor Sam.
Wow. That's mighty.
He had healed me.
Mighty God doing mighty works.
Yeah. Pastor Sam, I had only one more week to go in that hospital. And before that I came out of that hospital, I could run 2 laps
Wow.
of the hospital.
And this is the same man that couldn't play football because he had no energy and no breath, no nothing.
That's the same guy.
Wow.
That's the same guy that couldn't play football. Couldn't join in with the fellas.
Yes. What a story. What a God.
And I'm running 2 laps at the hospital.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
So I knew something really, really happened.
Aye.
I couldn't wait until the following Sunday night
Right.
to go back because I was getting
Back to
out for
church.
good then.
Right,
Getting
right.
back into church.
Wow.
And it was that Sunday night, Pastor Sam, I committed my life to the Lord.
Now, when God does something big like that, how can you not?
Sam,
How
Pastor
can
Sam,
you? Yes.
I'm 77 years of age now.
Wow.
And I'm a stronger man now than what I was when I was in rehab.
At 42.
42.
Praise the
42.
Lord. Brilliant. Brilliant.
But the 2 demons from hell
Yes.
came when I thought back and thought about how many other people are caught in that same alcoholic trap.
Yes, exactly.
Because they are demons.
They really are, of course.
And they
Pastor
do.
Laurence.
They're not your friend. For a long while you think that you can't do without them, that you need them.
Yes.
Some they will cost you money to be with. They're expensive friends.
Yes.
They caused me to steal.
Yes.
They took my license off me.
Yep.
Drunk and driving twice.
Yep.
They got me into the trouble with the police.
Wow.
Home. They took everything off me.
Yeah.
These 2 demons while I was with them.
They are robbers.
They are robbers.
Now, the Bible tells us that the thief comes not, but to kill, to steal, and to destroy.
Exactly.
So you actually lived that.
I lived it.
Wow.
I lived
Wow.
24 hours a day
Wow.
with them 2 demons.
Yes.
And I couldn't let them go.
Yep. And Pastor Laurence, you thought they were your friends. You know, the battle, these are my friends. You know, I'm spending time with these because they're looking after me. They're good to me.
You're exactly right,
You
Pastor
know?
Sam. I couldn't do without them. When arguments started between me and Jean,
Right.
I always took the part of vodka and beer.
Oh, yes, because they were never wrong.
That's right. I always, they were my friends.
Yes.
Jean was wrong.
Yes.
You know, and I would have used an excuse to bail out of the house on the way down to some
Yes.
pub, some
Now,
club.
correct me if I'm wrong here, Pastor Laurence, but was some of the rows initiated to get you down to the 2 demons?
Yes.
Is that the way it works?
Yes,
Yeah, right,
yes,
right,
yes.
right.
They were.
Yes. But then God came along.
When God came along, he made, 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, therefore, if any man be in Christ,
Yes.
he is a new creation.
Yes.
That verse has been proven to be a sound verse. Any Christian at all
Yes.
would tell you that they're not the same person
No,
as what they
definitely not.
used to be.
No. Definitely.
Including you, Pastor Sam.
Of course, and I know it. I've lived it.
And
Yeah.
correct.
Of course.
He makes you a new person. Not skinwardly, outwardly. You look the same, but mentally thinking and your way of living and everything else, you're a new creation.
That's right. But see your story, Pastor, on so far even. You know, it's like God says, you know, He's got a plan for us. You know, and no matter what happens in life, no matter who we think or who's in our company, who's not, God will make a way. And it sounds like, Pastor Laurence, God made a way for you at 42.
At 42.
You know, when it seemed like everything was lost, when you were stripped back of everything, you'd lost everything, been robbed of everything, and here you go on a Sunday evening, you get healed. And the next Sunday, you went to church again. Tell us what happened then.
Well, once I committed my life to the Lord, I still had my engineering company, and lucky enough I had good men working for me, I had honest men working for me.
Right.
The engineering company was in a bad way. I still owed all of that money.
22,000.
22,000. But do you know something, Sam? God opened up the doors for contract after contract after contract. The work
Praise
come
the
in,
Lord.
big work,
That's
really
right.
big work
Yes.
with big profits.
Wow.
And I was able to clear all of that there.
Right.
I was able to pay Alec Woods 7,000 in one go.
Wow. Praise the Lord.
In one go, the total 7 grand in one go.
Brilliant.
But do you know that Christian man, Alec Woods, never ever put me under pressure for that. He never ever, he never even asked. You know, at the time he took me in the hospital, I had said to him, getting out of the car, Alec, I'll pay you that 7,000 some
Right.
way or another.
Yes.
He said to me, I know you will, Lawrence.
Wow. Took you at your
And
word.
that was it.
Yeah.
I know you will, Lawrence.
Not brilliant.
And I did.
Wow.
And as the years went on, I did get hungry for God. But you said there, you know, God says, I know the plans I have for you.
Yes.
That Pastor Davy Duncan, I used to ask him all the questions, which I thought were hard questions. And I remember one time going into his church and saying to him, Pastor, do you ever get fed up with me asking you these questions?
Yeah.
Do you know, he put his hands on me, Pastor Sam, and he said, Lawrence, I love it.
Yeah.
And he points over to a man, and he says, do you see that man there? He says, that man is an elder in this church. He says he's leaving to become a pastor of his own church.
Right. Right. Yes.
He said, but Lawrence, he says, he won't make it.
Right.
He says, but son, someday you will be a pastor.
Wow.
Now, I'm a drunk, 6 months saved,
Wow.
didn't know Genesis, the Revelations, didn't know Abraham, didn't know
Yes.
Paul, didn't know Moses.
Nothing.
About the Bible.
Wow.
And he makes a prediction, Lawrence, someday that you're going to be a pastor.
And of course it happened.
As the years went on, Pastor Sam, I got a diploma, I got certificates, I became ordained,
Yes.
I became the secretary of the Associated
That's right.
Ministers Fellowship. I represented 22 churches and 22 pastors.
Powerful.
I have written many books, but the best outreach, and if anybody is watching in on this,
Yes.
and they do want a copy of the Two Demons from Hell,
Yes.
by all means, give me their address and I'll certainly
Yes.
send it.
Now that's a good point, Pastor Laurence, because we need to let people know how do they get that, because they need that in their hands.
Well, if you contact me either on Facebook,
Right.
right,
Okay.
which is Pastor Laurence.
Okay.
Also, you can contact me by email,
Right.
which is Pastor Laurence3
3. Okay.
at gmail.com.
Okay. Pastor Laurence3 at gmail.com.
That's right. Contact me.
Yeah.
Just give me name, address,
Yeah.
and I'll certainly send you some material, including the Two Demons
Yeah.
from Hell.
Yes.
But as the years went on, Pastor Sam, all of those things happened to me. I did become a pastor.
You did, of course.
My old pastor, David Duncan, came down to me,
Right.
and he said to me, Lawrence, he says, I'm hearing good news about your wee church. Wow. You called it at that particular time the Upper Room.
Yes, I remember it greatly.
The Upper Room.
Church. Yeah.
And, you know, when I talk about the Two Demons from Hell, it always reminded me that Jesus Christ himself had one demon
Right.
who sold him out for 30 pieces of silver,
Very true.
Judas Iscariot.
Yes. That's
And
right.
here's me knocking about with two of them.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm
Even
chumming
worse.
about with two of them.
Yeah.
Even, and they were selling me out
Exactly.
day after day after day,
Yeah.
getting me into all sorts of trouble with the law, as I say, taking my license off me, breaking my marriage up, losing my business, just taking my health off me, sucking the life out of me, and
Yes.
everything else. But however, you said there, but God had plans
Yes.
for me.
And he had. Yes.
And he did. And he showed his hand, and every one of them I got so hungry
Yes.
to find out more and more about him, praying constantly, falling in love with him, talking to him. And eventually, as the years went on, my old pastor came and he said to me, Lawrence, I hear that your church is going well. Would you mind? Now here is this man, a mighty man of God.
Yes.
And I can tell you a certain story about that man as well. Here is this man coming to me,
Right.
and he's asking me, Lawrence, would you mind if I preach the gospel in your church?
Wow. Isn't that
I
beautiful?
looked down and went, wow.
Isn't that
This is a Moses compared to me.
I know what you're saying.
This
I
is
know.
an Elijah, an
Yes.
Elisha, to me a nobody.
I know.
And he's asking me,
Yes, but Pastor
can he?
Laurence, we might be nobodies, but God makes us a somebody. And that's what changed in your life. God made you a somebody.
Oh, I'm glad he did.
Amen. Praise
I'm
God.
glad he did. I'm glad that he knew the plans for me
I'm
and not
telling
me.
you. Yeah.
And he didn't take my life.
Well,
He restored it.
it's funny, Pastor Laurence, because you could never have written that story.
No,
The story of your life.
no.
The
I
two
couldn't.
demons from hell.
No.
Nothing if you hadn't have lived that life. And I know it's unfortunate for a lot of people, but today, people hearing your story will be so encouraged. You know, that they can make a change, they can make a difference.
Without a doubt.
And, you know, they need to get what you got, a touch from God.
Trust in the Lord with all of your heart.
Amen.
And lean not in your own understanding.
Amen.
Son, I've learned it in all.
All things.
All.
Yes.
Not a bit, not the bottom of your heart.
Right.
With all of your heart.
Aye, that's the difference.
With all of your heart.
But you're saying to me, Pastor Laurence, that God also gave you a new heart.
Oh, He did. He gave me a new heart for people, for outreach, for to build up His work.
Yes.
Just only His work means anything in life to me, nothing else.
And you know, I know you for many, many years, Pastor Laurence, and you've been a faithful servant. A faithful servant. You see, at the end of the day, when you're given something from God, it lasts. You know, it doesn't fade away. And you're right, as time goes on, you get more and more filled and full and wanting to do more for God.
Pastor Sam, you're right. You're right. Because when I look back, that pastor that left, the elder that left the pastor's own church,
Yes.
he didn't make it.
Right.
He was a failure.
Right. You see.
But my engineering company
Yes.
prospered that much
Yes.
that I was able to donate to other churches,
Wow.
the struggling pastors,
Yes.
to help the poor,
Yes.
orphanages.
That's right.
And what I found out, Pastor Sam, was that no matter how much money I give away, it never made me any
Back to
poorer.
that. Right.
God didn't take my material blessings
No,
off me.
of course
He
not.
provided them.
Absolutely. But doesn't the Bible say that you can never outgive God?
Oh, no,
You know?
no.
So you proved that, but look, I don't want to embarrass you here, but there's something I heard, and I know it's true. You were told you're the best giver in a certain church.
I was. That was the old Pastor Duncan.
Yes.
I was old Pastor Duncan that led me to the Lord. That when my business started to prosper, and that was the church, that was my church.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, Pastor Duncan eventually, as the weeks went on, he gave me a key to the church.
Right.
I became the maintenance man.
Oh, very good.
Right.
Excellent. Yes.
If I'd have seen a window broke, I'd have went and bought the glass myself
Of course.
and put it in.
Yes.
I'd done a bit of tiling.
Right.
I'd done the vacuum cleaning, washed the dishes, cleaned the toilets.
Yes.
You know,
All under the Lord.
I'd done all that there in this church.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, when I was leaving, I was leaving in good terms. He wouldn't take the key off me. He said to me, "No, Laurence, that's your key. You come back and in here anytime you want it."
Wow, isn't that lovely? You see, that's a way, if you're moving to a church or becoming a pastor,
Yeah.
that's the way you should do it.
Yeah.
It's the only way, because then you know it's of God. Any other way is not of God.
Yeah.
It's of man. And that's why that elder failed.
Yeah.
He probably didn't do it the right way, unfortunately. But look, there's something very interesting there, because the more you give to God, the more God gives to you and used you.
Well, where I proved that there, Pastor Sam, as I said, I had nothing. But he certainly did restore all the years that the locusts have eaten.
Amen.
And not only that there, when he talks about the end of Job,
Right.
and he restored Job
Twice as much.
as much.
Yes.
He done that in my life.
Yes. Amen.
He done that in my life.
Powerful.
Pastor David Duncan, there was businessmen
Right.
with bigger businesses than me.
Yes.
Really good businessmen.
Aye, well blessed.
But Pastor Duncan did come and he did say to me, "Laurence,"
Yeah.
he says, "you're the biggest tither in here."
I know. That's
He
fantastic.
says, "You're the biggest giver in here."
You see, you can't give out God.
No.
This is the thing, and here's the evidence, you know. And the two demons then, by that stage, God had kind of taken them away out of your life.
It completely killed the desire for alcohol.
Wow.
I lived for that craving.
Yes.
That it was I couldn't break the desire for it.
No.
Killed it dead, Pastor Sam.
You see, that's what I noticed,
Never.
sir, Pastor Laurence. It was almost instantly.
Instantly.
Now, I know you were in a place for a certain amount of weeks, but you had a choice that night. I can go back to the club, or can go to church.
That's right.
Now, why did God lead you to church? How did God, get a man who's so caught up in these two demons? How did he break you away from that?
Well, from 42 to 77, and all of them years, I've never had a desire for alcohol.
Wow.
It completely took away the habit, the craving that I had. It completely killed it.
So you're saying to me the verse where God says, when he begins a work in you, he takes it on to completion?
He carries it on to
You're a
completion.
testimony then.
He certainly has done a big work in my life.
And Pastor Laurence, you said there that the hospital told you would never see being an old man.
That's right.
Now, I'm not saying you're an old man.
Yeah, right.
But what I'm saying is you're 77.
77, I'm strong now, Pastor Sam.
And that's
And
an
I'm
extra.
fit.
Yep, that's
And
35 years.
And I'm good sight mind.
I know you are. And your preaching's fantastic.
And
Praise
I'm
the
preaching the gospel.
Yeah.
He taught me how to play a guitar when I was 60 years of age.
Yes.
And I played the guitar around 3 old people's homes.
Brilliant. Praise the Lord.
I had the privilege of leading some of those old people to the Lord.
Isn't that wonderful?
When I led them to the Lord, I would have went down to the Bible shop, Faith Mission Bible shop,
Yes.
and I would have bought them a Bible with big print.
Right. So they could read it. Yep.
And I realized that even the big print in the Bibles that I bought wasn't big enough for their poor eyes.
Yes. Yes.
So I started converting the New Testament, right? From Matthew right through to Revelations,
Yes.
all in big giant print.
Wow.
And I provided it to the
Isn't that
old people's
lovely?
homes.
Praise the Lord.
Homes. But there's one story that I think I should tell you.
Right.
And it's in relation to God and this man, Pastor David Duncan again. I seen Pastor David Duncan performing and quoting so many scriptures and praying for people and them coming to pass.
Right.
But when I was drinking heavily, I drank in a club called Rolls Royce.
Right.
Right? Now, in Rolls Royce, there was what you call a commissioner.
Okay.
He worked for Rolls Royce.
Yes.
And he had on the suit with the brass buttons and the red velvet.
Right. Right.
This man was a heavy drinker.
Right.
And I drunk with him every Sunday, God's day.
Yes.
Every Sunday, I went in the Rolls Royce and me and this man drunk together.
Right. Right.
For years.
Yes.
Right? After rehab and after I committed my life to the Lord, and when God started bringing in work in my firm, and
Yes.
I got a contract in Ballybean Estate
Right.
for putting on safety rails around different people's gardens and things. So me and my wee apprentice were working in Ballybean at St. Down,
Yes.
right beside,
Yep.
and all of a sudden this man comes along,
Right.
and he's delighted to see me,
Yes.
and he says, "Oh, Laurence, what about you?" He says, "Are you still taking a sup?"
Right. Right.
I says, "No, I'm not." "No?" I says, "No, I'm a Christian now."
Wow.
He stops back and he says, "You're what?" I said, "I'm a Christian now, serve the Lord." He says, "Where do you go?" I said, "I go to a wee church in the Cumber Road." I says, "You call it the Assemblies of God?"
Yep.
Right away, Pastor Sammy says, "Pastor David Duncan?" And I says, "Yes." "Do you know him?" He says, "Yes, I do."
Right.
He says, "I was a nailder in there."
Wow.
He said, "For 3 years." And I'm taken back.
Yeah, because you drank him for years and you didn't know that.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I says, "You were a nailder?" I says, "In the Assemblies of God." He says, "What happened to you?" He says, "Well," he says, "I had major cancer."
Right.
He says, "And a girl called Ruby told Pastor Duncan how ill I was."
Right.
He says, "I only had a couple of months to live." He says, "And Pastor Duncan come up to the hospital."
Brilliant.
He says, "And just like Elijah," he says, "he lay
Yeah.
across me
Wow.
in bed, in the hospital bed."
Yes.
He said, "He told me that I would have a good sleep that night.
Right.
The next morning, I would eat a good breakfast. And by the end of the month, I would be out of hospital, cancer free.
Wow. Praise the Lord.
And that's the way I went. I says, wow.
Wow.
He said to me, Pastor Laurence, he says, all that happened.
Yes.
I said, it happened. Now, Pastor Sam, God forgive me, but here's where I lost it with him.
Yes.
I says, you're telling me, I says, that you had major cancer. I says, Pastor David Duncan comes up and he prays for you. You receive a miracle healing. I says, you go to church. I says, I don't know how long you went to church for, but you must have went for a long while before you got made up to an elder.
Exactly.
And he says, I did. I says, and then you walk away from God.
Exactly.
I says, I'm drinking with you every Sunday. I said, and all of those Sundays and them years that I'm drinking with you, never once did you mention God to me.
Wow.
Never once did I even have an inkling that you were a Christian or that you once served God.
My goodness.
I said to him, I says, have you any idea? I says, how many people are right now at the minute are up in the Ulster Hospital? Their families is breaking their heart over them.
Exactly.
I says, with major cancer, going to die. I says, and God grants you a miracle. I says, you go to church, you serve him for a wee while, and you walk away from him, back into here Rolls Royce. I says, and you're drinking all them years, and you never once witnessed the God. What he had done for you.
I'm telling you.
Now, I said I was skeptical, Pastor Sam, because I was still a young Christian.
Yes, of course.
And I knew what God had done for me.
Yes.
But I wanted to find out about this man.
Right.
And I haven't mentioned his name yet, and I won't mention his name, but I did get back to Pastor David Duncan on that following Sunday night.
Yes.
And I said, Pastor, do you know such and such?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
He says to me, I do. He says, he was an elder in here for a few years.
There you go.
I says, could you tell us what happened, Pastor Duncan?
Right.
He says, yeah. He says, Sister Ruby there told me that he had major cancer and he hadn't long to live.
Right.
I went up to the hospital, I lay across him and I prayed for him. And he received the healing.
Powerful.
Word for word.
There you go.
Pastor Sam,
Wow.
David Duncan backed up exactly what that man had just told me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I'll finish now, Pastor Sam, but you know, God is not finished with me yet.
No, he's not.
I'm pastoring a church in Ballybean, Dundonald,
Yes.
along with two other pastors.
Yes.
You're one, yourself,
Thank you very
Pastor
much.
Sam Barr.
Yes.
The other one is Pastor Herbie Bowes,
Yes.
a lovely great man of God,
Yes.
and myself.
Yes.
And you call it the House of the Lord.
Excellent. Yes.
And we'll have a website, and the website is thehouseofthelord.church.
Excellent. Yes.
And right now at the moment we're giving out thousands of leaflets around Ballybean.
Yes.
And we are seeing God's hand moving. There was new people there on Sunday night.
Yes.
And my wife got saved shortly after me.
Praise the Lord.
And God has just been so gracious. My wife was 79 at the end of the week there.
Yes, that's right.
And as I say, I'm 77. And
Praise the Lord.
we've just so much to thank God for. He's just done so much in my life. I don't live for material blessings, Sam.
I know.
I would rather give away. I support that work in Uganda.
Yes.
That girl called Nimri Helen.
Yes.
Support her, along with the locals here in Belfast,
Yes.
along with the Philippines and
Yes.
India. Supported India for 15 years.
Praise the Lord. It's all God's work.
And you know, as I say, Pastor Sam, no matter how much you give away,
Always comes back.
it does. It
It's
always
on its
comes
way
back.
back. And that's the thing about God, isn't it?
And that's what makes me happy.
Amen.
You know, I just love serving Him.
Amen.
And He's brought great people
Brilliant.
into my life,
Fantastic.
including you, Pastor
Thank you
Sam.
very much. I appreciate
And,
that. Thank you.
And I know your story too, Pastor Sam, and someday maybe
Someday
the
maybe.
podcast will be,
Yes, we'll bring it out.
which again
Yes.
is a miracle and
It is.
amazing.
Of course it is.
But thank you for interviewing me, Pastor Sam.
Honestly, Pastor Laurence, it's a pleasure. And I'm so glad to get this recorded, because this will be for years. When this goes up, and I know many people looking at this even years later will be thinking about, if God can do that for that man, he can do it for me.
I've often said that there,
That's it.
David said, taste and see that the Lord is good.
Amen.
And then he goes on to say, blessed is the man that puts their trust in him.
Amen.
And that's what I'd say. You may get down to the doctors now because you're under depression,
Yes.
drugs, alcohol, gambling. Doesn't make any difference.
No.
And it's sucking the life out of you, they're draining the life out of you. But, it's not doctor, it's taste and see
Amen.
that God is good. Give him a try.
That's fantastic.
If you come in East, if you live anywhere near East Belfast at all, Cumber, Bangor, Newton Ards, all around in town, by all means, come and pay us a visit, the house of the Lord. We're in the Eleanor Centre in Ballybean Estate, right in the square of Ballybean.
And that's
So we'd love to see you.
Yes, praise the Lord. And just anybody else looking in there, you heard Pastor Laurence saying there, the house of the Lord, that church. Look it up, because Pastor Laurence, maybe now, I'm not putting you on the spot, but would it be possible maybe to put the 2 demons from hell onto that website?
Yes, I can put it on as a download for if anybody wants to download it. Yep.
So you've got the opportunity to read that testimony, that story for yourself. And listen, there will be a part 2 with Pastor Laurence. Just keep your eye out on this channel, because you will hear great testimonies of great people, but more than that, all done by a great God who loves you and cares for you. And we'll leave it at that. Till we meet again, God bless you, God be with you, and God bless your family. In Jesus Christ's name, amen.